Hi, and welcome to Crash Course Cryptozoology. Today I would like to bring to your attention a certain piece of cryptozoological evidence that is not only relatively recent, but has also gone considerably undetected. This piece of evidence isn't just a piece of evidence. It is also a very interesting chapter in cryptozoology history that has, so far, gone mostly unrecognized in that particular historical regard. The piece of evidence I'd like to discuss, or rather, the pieces of evidence I'd like to discuss, are the Coulter photographs. For those of you more familiar with the Crash Course Cryptozoology channel and have watched some of the podcasts, you may already be familiar with the Coulter photographs. If you are not, this video is not only an analysis of the photographs, but also a rundown of what exactly they allegedly are. A rundown which will start now. In the late summer of 2018, Michael and Stefaun Coulter, a father and son duo respectively, traveled to Leeds Point, New Jersey, or at least near Leeds Point, New Jersey. The interests they had that brought them there that day were ones concerning the legend of the Jersey Devil, specifically the colonial interpretation of the original story. The Jersey Devil is a very strange cryptid reportedly seen in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey, which is a relatively large wilderness region of the state. Traditional descriptions depict the Jersey Devil as a sort of equine animal, most closely resembling a horse, with membranous wings on its shoulder blades, most often likened to bat wings, a serpentine tail, and ram horns sitting atop its head. Certainly a very strange menagerie of animal features. Since the name became more popular in the Revolutionary and Civil War eras, the term Jersey Devil has become something of an umbrella term, often being used to refer to anything strange in the Pine Barrens. However, modern-day witnesses who claim to have seen the true Jersey Devil generally agree that this older description matches the most with what they have reportedly seen, with some variations. Of course, variations are to be expected in a case like this. As previously stated, Stefaun and Michael Coulter were very interested in the Revolutionary War era legend of the Jersey Devil, which involves the Leeds family, making Leeds Point a very significant area to not only the history of New Jersey, but to the Coulters specifically. It's even possible that extended family from the Coulters are also interested in this subject. The Coulter report allegedly begins when, as traveling down Leeds Point, Michael and Stefaun Coulter claim that they began to experience strange symptoms. Stefaun could reportedly no longer see clearly as his eyes began to spontaneously water, and soon after, his father Michael reportedly could not hear well. Moments before these strange symptoms allegedly occurred, Michael had reported seeing a strange animal in the tree line that he described as camel-like.
We came down in the evening, which I was trying to tell you guys earlier. We came down in the evening. It might have been about 4:30. We came down.
Yeah, it was
in the winter time,
like
where you get dark early. So we came down, same spot. We looking out, same distance. He says that he saw it.
Yeah, it was out there.
It was out there. Now here's the strange part of the story that you guys haven't heard yet. From this distance, he was looking, and he kept saying, "Dad, I can't see." His eyes was watering
really bad.
I was
standing here, and you were over by where the truck is, maybe
by the car, and he was
10 feet.
talking, and I was like, "Steph, I can't hear you."
I couldn't see it.
I'm like, "I can't hear you." It felt like my ears was clogged because we all agreed of the compression and the silence out here. And that's when he came back over to the car, and he pointed to about like right where the bend is at, and he was like, "Dad, there it is.
And the reason I said that was because when I looked up the street, what I thought was a deer coming out, you could see like a face come out by where the bend in the road is, right there by the tree at the corner. It came out into the street, but then it went back into the brush, and it started coming up the right side of the road here through the weeds, and you could see it moving through. You could see the outline of something, but I just thought it was strange. I'm like, why would a deer be coming to me? It should be running from me.
Do you think that had something to do with why you couldn't hear and why you couldn't see?
I believe we were under paranormal attack.
Yeah, that's what I
really
think.
do.
Because
I honestly feel
what
that.
he saw, I didn't see, and what I saw, he didn't see. Now,
Not
what
at
I
all.
saw, the branches were moving, and what I saw from about the chest from here to about the shoulder, about almost mid-head, was like a solid black image, pitch black.
Pitch black.
And I'm like, what am I seeing? And the branch was moving. So when the branch went up, it took its head and it moved its head around like that. And I was like, let's go.
The Coulters reported that the animal stepped out of the tree line and into a small marshy clearing where they could more clearly observe what it actually looked like. It is at this point that Stefaun snapped 3 pictures of the animal on his phone before it disappeared. It is worth noting that the Coulters have a rather spiritual view of the events that allegedly transpired. However, of course, there being photographs, the validity of the claims isn't all that we as examiners are able to focus on for this case. Observing the photographs and giving a very surface level first examination, it would appear to be the case that whatever was photographed, if it was actually there and not digitally inserted, which there is currently no evidence for, it does appear to be an animal of some kind. Observation of the background shows that the background, for the most part, does not move in the succession of these 3 photographs, while the object in the center seems to change rather drastically, suggesting it is animate and therefore an actual living animal. As to what exactly this animal is another question. It appears that the animal does in fact have 4 limbs, considering that 2 of them can be seen from what would appear to be a side view of the animal. It has a relatively horizontal body, a somewhat long neck, and a long horizontal head. Looking at the known database, the animal resembles most closely something like a horse, deer, elk, or a similar animal. Although far less likely, you could include a camel in that list, incidentally. The succession of photos appears to show the animal rearing up onto its hind legs, with its forelimbs dangling in front of it. What exactly the subject is supposed to be doing here is relatively unclear. However, as it rears up onto its hind legs, we as examiners are able to gain a better understanding of what exactly this animal looks like. One of the first impressions that one gets, especially from examining the 3rd photograph, is that the head of the animal is rather large and rotund. Bulky, you could say. Even for the body which it has, the head seems rather large. Keen feature to make note of, because the photograph being as blurry as it is, there's not many other details that we can gain from it other than what certain body parts generally look like and the color of the animal. Even the color is somewhat iffy. Because of this, we are unable to compare the size, height, width of this animal to anything in its surroundings, which unfortunately means that we do not know how tall, wide, what have you, this animal is. But what we can do is take certain parts of the body that are clear and discover certain body ratios that appear on the subject. The most stark being that of the length of the head compared to the length of the body. Again, the head is rather large, and looking through the photographs, appears to be about half the length of the actual body, suggesting that it is in fact a considerable feature of the subject, whatever the subject happens to be. Comparing this to the rest of the matches previously mentioned, one comes across certain similarities, but one comes across even more similarities when the idea of age is taken into consideration. A constant throughout a great deal of the animal kingdom in infants is large heads compared to the body. Human infants and other mammal infants, even some reptile infants, are born with rather large heads that their bodies sort of grow into over time. This can especially be observed in a horse foal. Horse foals, being the kind of animal that walks within hours of birth, are, in this particular case, a very good way of comparing the body ratios seen on the Coulter subject to known animals. As can be observed here, the length of a horse foal's head is roughly about half of their body. The Coulter photographs, being so blurry, give approximate estimates as to how long its head is compared to its body. Thus, exact differences cannot be accurately determined. However, very general similarities can be, but similarities that are still considerable. They seem to fall within the same body ratio range. It seems to be not out of the question to any extent that the Coulter subject could be something to the effect of a horse foal, rearing up on its hind legs for whatever reason that it did. Of course, this analysis, while interesting, ignores the testimonial evidence of the Coulter's encounter. There is nothing to speak against or for specifically the Coulter's repertoire or their sightings' validity to a T. We are forced to remain indifferent on that until further notice, whether further notice includes medical confirmation of strange anomalous symptoms, new information about their past credibility, etc., etc. Something that is rather overlooked is the fact that it is not only historically significant by the fact that it is currently the only undebunked alleged Jersey Devil photo. Through analysis, they also serve as a fantastic example of the different kinds of analysis that one should expect to be carrying out when undergoing cryptozoological endeavors. When one steps into cryptozoology, one often thinks that what they will be looking at is data pertaining to a cryptid, or the validity of that cryptid. Sometimes this is the case, but oftentimes it is not. Oftentimes, instead, what one encounters is a scenario where plenty of alternate explanations are abundant. In other words, the fact that the Coulter photographs, as pointed out by Stefaun Coulter himself, resemble, especially the third photograph, to a great deal older depictions of the Jersey Devil is noteworthy. But what is equally noteworthy is the fact that it also bears resemblances to known animals, things that can be explained without the need of introducing new phenomenon to the equation necessarily. The Coulter photographs are not only historically significant because they are so far the only undebunked piece of what might be Jersey Devil data, they also could very well be a textbook example of why people think they've seen a Jersey Devil data. The Coulter photographs are a very important piece of cryptozoological history, and they're so relatively recent that it seems really a shame to some degree that this history in the making during all of our lifetimes has gone relatively unexplored. If anyone watching is interested, there is a documentary on the subject over on the Tucker Upper YouTube channel called Jersey Devil, Manifestation of the 13th Child. I myself am very interested in the Coulter photographs, and not only what they visually portray, but what they say visually about how one could misidentify animals, as well as the importance of eyewitness testimony to contextualizing a case towards the positive, negative, or otherwise. And I would love to know what all of you think of this case. It's certainly a very interesting one. That being said, until next time.